play this game called Memory. You take a deck of cards, and each card had a picture on it, like a dog or a cat or an apple or a banana, an airplane, something, and you place them all upside down. Now, there was 2 of each card, so the aim was to find the pairs. And I was awesome at it. No one was as good as me. Yeah, except for Dad. Because no one beat him. Not ever. Not even once. He had a great memory. It was photographic. Photogenic. I used to call it when I was a kid. And my parents would laugh at me rather than correct me. And he was just hilarious, leaving me to repeat my mistake over and over again. Sound like a bit of a twit. Or a goo, as my dad would say. And I came to really rely on Dad and his brain, his knowledge, on having a father with this photogenic memory who just loved language and knew so many words. I used him like a dictionary, especially when I was in high school, having to write assignments or do essays. Dad, what's apoplectic? Dad, what's intermedularity? Dad! It's the coxcomb! He had an answer for everything. Complete with examples and maybe even like a song he'd make up if he was feeling a bit silly. Wrote out a few. He would use words in just funny ways. Like if you wore glasses, then you were a gobblehead. If you weren't very bright, then he'd tell you were a genius. If you were dressed up, you were a big shot. If you were a bit odd, then you were a pumpkin. And if you ever said that you missed him, he would tell you to shoot straight next time. When I was 17, Dad must have got sick of all my questions because he bought me an Oxford dictionary, a great big fancy one. And I was on my way because now I have forged my own career as a word hunter and gatherer, as a maker-upper of poems and funny little stories and rhymes and ditties, and I search for those clever phrases and expressions, and I shudder at typos and misplaced apostrophes and dangling modifiers. I touch at the herald scum. And I can't date a man who can't spell. I've learned from the master. Most of his words are gone now. And it's like they just fell out of his head slowly over the years, and they just landed on the ground beneath him. Everything began to look strange through his eyes, like butter became gunk. The newspaper became the huge paper book thingy. Money became the blues and the oranges and the yellows. And the noise from the vacuum would startle him, and his electric razor absolutely terrified him. The gears in his car became 1, 2, 3, 4. What's 1, 2, 3, 4 mean? He once asked us. We hid his keys. I remember when it all started. He was trying to freckles off the dog's face. He said they were hurting her. Pretty alarming for Dad. When he saw the blood, when he realised that he'd cut her skin with his long nails, and in that moment of clarity before he forgot what had happened. The pup, her high-pitched yelping, the broken cups on the floor, coffee all over my dad and the dog and the huge paper book thingy. And the doctors eventually confirmed that it was a build-up of plaque and tangles on his brain. I thought you only got plaque on your teeth and tangles in your hair. And I asked Dad what he made of it all, and he just said, bugger if I know. Dementia. It is weird, the way that it works. You sort of lose all your memories, but backwards. Like for Dad, everything just started to float away. But first, he lost the most recent years, his retirement years. All that overseas travel, relaxing, reading, doing the crossword, losing his wife. All those hospital trips, just gone. The working years, the married years, they went next. Memories of a noisy house, just brimming with kids and cats and dogs, and mum announcing, I'm having another baby 7 times over, and all those births and report cards, tuck shop money wedding days just erased. Dad! It's undies and then trousers and then belt. Nah, Dad, it's singlet and then shirt and then tie and then jumper. He would remember socks but no shoes, or shoes but no socks. And he tried really hard. Like, he would remember the month, the year, but not the month, or the week, but not the day, or the street, but not the house, or the spoons, but not the knives, thank God. He doesn't know his name, but he still knows all the words to I am the very model of a modern major general. So it's not all bad. Yeah, Dad's been able to find some things too. Long buried things, that he thought he would never see again, like his childhood mates. Phil and Harold reappeared. The three of them racing each other down to the chook house, or throwing stones in the creek, or hunting for rabbits. And his parents, who have been dead for years, are back. He sees his dad on the day before he died, sitting on their dusty veranda, crying in pain. And sometimes he reaches out for his mum. He can see her blue and white spotted dress, her straw hat, sun in her hair. Sometimes he tries to call his parents up, let them know that he's safe. So he'll dial lots of numbers and he'll get through to someone, and then he'll tell them that he'll be home late. And he grins from ear to ear thinking he's chatting to my gran. It's nice, actually. I try not to be too pissed off about Dad and his plaque and his tangles. I try to pick up after him, carry it around for him, all the things that he loves that he's forgotten. Like big things, like his family, friends, community. Small things, his leather chair, bacon and eggs, crumb fish, faulty towers, weak white tea, watching airplanes fly overhead, the stray cat that he used to play with in the backyard. And I try to clear out the corners of my mind to make room for his memories. And I try to be a keeper of my dad, of all that he is, of all that he was, and I try to keep his history intact. And I try to beat whatever that is taking him, erasing him, but the thing is, he doesn't care! Because, he's left it. He's left all of it. Everything. He's in a home now. We hate the place, but Dad doesn't seem to mind it. Most of the carers, they don't speak much English and they don't really understand his disease. So for the first few weeks they thought that he wasn't hungry or that he had a little appetite, but the truth is he would spend a half an hour wondering what the things on the plate in front of him were, and then another half an hour trying to figure out how to use the utensils. There's one nurse that she loves my dad. One time she called him a cute little thing. And he didn't like her tone, so he quickly told her to bugger off. I loved it! It was like we had it back for a second. But the staff reported at handover that the gentleman in room 7 is groggy, has a bit of an attitude, and refuses to eat. Yeah. And they don't have the full picture, do they? They're understaffed and they're underpaid and they don't know him. They don't know the real dad. They don't know that he came up from the country without knowing a soul in Melbourne, and he chased a pretty girl around town who later became my mum. Or that he had a bucket load of kids and he worked hard to support us, and he encouraged us to read and to write and to think and to ask questions and to open our eyes and to look up and to never speak with our mouths full or interrupt or answer back or finish a sentence with a preposition. They only know him as the gentleman in room 7, who can be difficult and uncooperative, especially at bath time, who gets angry if touched, often refuses to take his medicine, and yells at the nurses when they try to put an electric razor near his face. They don't know why he's scared and why he's cross. They don't know what he had and what he's lost, and they don't know that when I was 17, he gave me an Oxford dictionary. filled with all the words he used to know and love, words he taught me, words we marvelled at, great words like mellifluous and propinquity and insouciance. But they don't know how awesome he was at memory. And how no one could beat him, not even me. Not ever, not even once.
Fuzz that does it. Puts you right there in the room, listening to that hiss and crackle, the low constant hum. I can see the dust floating in the sunlight, smell the coffee and the weed, feel the speaker pin vibrating against my back. I don't have to hear anything else. I know exactly where I am. There is, of course, more to hear. There's usually a bass thrumming away, stirring up the dust. There might be a guitar, violin, out-of-tune piano. At some point there'll be voices. A warm, gruff, imprecise one. And a pitch-perfect one, high or low, tinkling or stabbing or wrapping you up. And whatever other crazy shit they felt like chucking in the mix. Spoons, maracas, pots and pans, tablas, recorders, any of the toys lying around the house that me, Rory and Jem hadn't stashed away somewhere for safety. Not everything made it out of those afternoon sessions in one piece. And once they started letting me get involved, well, that's when things got complicated. That's how I got my name, of course. Foley. Not the Foley artist who do sound effects, right? That's me. That's all I ever wanted to do right from the start. Make sounds with things that sounded like other things. Not really the same agenda as my folks, but they let me play along for a little while. Instead of tapping out a beat on a tabla, I'd stretch a balloon over a saucepan, hang a roasting pan from the ceiling and whack it with a bottle wrapped up in a pair of socks. And once my mum started to let me play with the 4-track, then it got really exciting. I could scrape a cup with a teaspoon, slow it down to an 1/8 of its speed and get the sound of a troll dragging a knight in armour into a cave. Layer it with a simple and get a dragon sweeping overhead. She was into looping things, getting a snippet of something and making a little tape loop that went forever and jamming to it, but I could never see the point in that. I always wanted the next sound. I didn't even really care about the music at all, to be honest. Which is probably why my musical collaboration with my parents didn't last that long. Their lo-fi, folky sing-song thing and my experimental fantasy shit kind of overlapped in a way, but, you know, I wasn't my sister. I wasn't my brother either. I had my own plans, and they weren't the same as my mum and dad's, and they weren't the exact opposite either. Didn't want to join them, I didn't want to beat them. Mostly I wanted them to leave me alone. Luckily they were pretty happy with that. I'm really lucky that my 15 minutes of fame happened early on. Got it out of the way, got it over and done with. The biggest hit my parents ever had, and in the world of lo-fi indie folk, that's not saying a whole lot, was a song called Underground Picnic. It was big on student radio for a while. It turns up in movies and best-ofs now and then. It's a kind of manic, upbeat number with a chorus that goes, "Come up for some air, come up for some air, come up for some air." Ah, you know it. I can't do it like my mum did, but you get the idea. Good for drinking 50 beers and jumping up and down to. Anyway, the main riff is this strange, warped-sounding melody. It's tuneful, but it doesn't sound like any instrument you ever heard. It seems pretty archaic now, but back then, and still today with this kind of music, all the sounds were real. There was no digital sound, no manipulation other than amplifiers and the simple mechanics of tape. All analogue, all handmade. So everyone wanted to know what this sound was. All the musos, everybody who knew my mum and dad would ask, where the hell did that riff come from? My dad would kind of grin and puff out his chest a bit and say, Foley did it. And then I felt pretty good. Yeah, that was the high point of my musical career, all right. Peaked at 12. Child star. All downhill from there, of course. Anyway, you want to know what this sound was, right? It's no big secret exactly, except, well, anyway. My mum's always been a bit, Dad says she's artistic. Jemima says she's a fucking nutcase. All I know is I learned when to stay out of her way, right? I learned to watch carefully. So you could see when things were good, when you might get a smile and be allowed to play with the 4-track. If things were bad, you kept low and stayed under the radar. If I needed lunch money, I went to Jem. If I needed something only Mum could do, I went to Rory. He could usually get her on board. Never asked Dad for anything, there's no point. He used to ask me to ask Jemima for money for him, so... Anyway, the key was to gauge the mood. You had to get it right. If I went to Jem instead of her when she was feeling good, she didn't like that. If I went straight to her at the wrong time, well, that was bad too. You get the idea. The pills helped keep her steady, but she didn't always take them. Or she took other ones that made them not work, and different ones again that made those other ones not work too. You know. There was an old lady who swallowed a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. The pills were in the cabinet in the bathroom next to my bedroom, so I could always hear when she went in there and opened the cabinet. It had a squeaky hinge that made the same kind of sound each time you opened it. Not quite the same. You can tell a lot about how that door was opened by the way the squeak sounded. Usually it kind of went like this. And then shutting. That was good. That was normal. Now, if you went in there and opened it a little bit, like if you just went in there and stood there looking, it only did a tiny squeak. So if I heard footsteps and then just, that was a bad sign. If you opened it really slowly, that was a bad sign too. And if I had to go like this, that's the door hitting the wall. Usually then I hid under the bed for a while. It's a good system. It got me through. And when I took the microphone in there, well, hey, you made me famous. In lo-fi indie folk singers. I never told my mum and dad about the door. They know I recorded it, sure that that's where the riff came from, but I don't know what it meant. It's funny, you know, hearing that song now, I've heard it so many times, and so many people have sung that riff to me, usually after the 50 beers. It's all pretty meaningless now. But if I just picture myself back there in that room, hearing that squeak through the walls, the real one, not the one in the song, honestly, it gives me the shits. I feel cold, small, kind of squirty. So I don't do that. I don't listen to the music either. I get that it's unique and playful and honest and blah blah, and lots of people seem to get incredibly emotional about it. It doesn't do anything for me. I still like hearing the fuzz though. It's formless. It's raw material, like primordial ooze. You can make anything you want out of it.
At first I decided to deal with it the way I've always dealt with unpleasant issues in my marriage. Pretend it isn't happening. But, like the dinner guest who outstays their welcome, some things just won't go away. I kept noticing it. Started to obsess about it. Never a good thing is an obsession. I always think it's best if things are more measured, don't you? I tried to think of it as a scatter cushion, out of place on the sofa. Something I could plump up, move and make perfect again. I tried to feign interest in his day, in his work, God forbid. Something I thought I'd earned the right to expend with years ago in lieu of longevity, but needs must. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Flat denial. I found myself compelled to pick at it like a scab, making it bleed over and over again till it seemed to spread, getting bigger and more unsightly. I must say this posed a serious challenge to my usual position of if it isn't broken, don't fix it, and if it is, drive immediately to David Jones and buy a new one. His appearance started to change. He started buying clothes for himself. I know, really? After years of being his personal shopper, my role was displaced. Packages kept arriving. Tasteful things, in all fairness. A little on the young side for a man of his age and body shape. He joined the gym. Always a danger sign on a man of a certain age. Now don't misunderstand, I think everyone should take pride in their appearance. I certainly do. Even the shiniest of trophies becomes tarnished with age. Now, I really wasn't snooping. To be perfectly honest, I've never been terribly inquisitive by nature, but it was just there in plain sight. Well, on his password-protected phone. Now, you're probably thinking tacky, compromising photographs, or what do they call it, sexting? No. It was much worse than that. A couple of workmen photographs. Group shots, really. But the eye was drawn very clearly to her. I've never thought of him as a particularly talented photographer. Very much pointed press man. But the composition was really rather beautiful. She's not even looking towards the camera. Totally unaware the image is being taken, captured by his lingering gaze. She's young, of course, beautiful. Bit of a young Debbie Harry about her. Clever, bit of a rising star. And he's her boss. I started to read avidly in search for the way to a successful marriage. I registered online with Relationships Australia. Email non-preclude, of course, in the name of discretion. Mutual trust and understanding. Fuck Relationships Australia. Speaking of such things, our relationship had become less. Well, I'd like to see how Blondie would fare after 20 years of servicing the same old tired penis. Trying to look ever grateful after a lifetime of hanging on the fucking telephone. Direct action was clearly necessary. I was not prepared to be an emotional, not to mention financial, victim of divorce. Divorced women are more likely to suffer from poverty-related illnesses. Thank you, Relationships Australia. And let's face it, darling, it just simply isn't in my nature to allow myself to succumb to rickets or scurvy. Looking back, it was stupid of me to even try to compete with a blondie lookalike 20 years younger than me. I studied her makeup application and tried to replicate it. I heard a gasp there. Well, what can I say? I was in crisis. He didn't seem to notice. I was also in full Nigella mode. Filled the fridge with butter, cheese, and double cream. Imagine my frustration when that route back to his heart was blocked with his announcement that his new healthy regime would be based on clean foods and green smoothies. Can I say, paleo peace, the damage you have caused this nation. I have to say I'm Team Manu all the way. Everything tastes better with a little sauce, does it not? Now there's a man who's not afraid of a bit of butter. Suddenly it was all about his cholesterol level and kale. No doubt wanting to ensure a longer, healthier life to keep up with his much younger paramour. I decided to move into stealth mode. On the face of it, I went along with his desire for unrefined food and the dread of quinoa, although I did try to draw the line of raw carrot cake. Really? I began to add butter. Lots of butter. Everything. I know his cholesterol level, but what do you expect? That I should gift wrap him and deliver him to her doorstep? Oh, of course the quinoa began to taste better. Everything did. He loved it. I'll have a bit more. Dollar butter cream sugar. I probably should have stopped at that. He stopped losing weight, started to get his little midlife paunch back. Much more Manu than Paleo Pete, thank goodness. Oh, it must be the gym. Muscle weighs more than fat. Have some more quinoa, raw carrot cake. Wash it down with some almond milk. Fucker. But I didn't stop at that. In my online quest for the secrets to midlife relationship nirvana, I discovered that ecstasy had once been used in couples therapy. 70s American, of course. I managed to source some clinical grade MDMA. Darren Flask, all right. The baristas of the respectable eastern suburbs can get you anything for right. I've never been a recreational drug user, but oh my, the MDMA worked wonders. I'd slip it into his green tea on a Friday night, he'd be mine for the entire weekend. Regular top-ups, of course. Oh, he loved me so much. It's like we'd slip back into a time warp. Well, somebody else's time warp, actually, because our relationship had never been quite as frenzied as this. He was so attentive. All right, he did want to dance. Quite a lot, actually. A small prize, really. Over sex. And there's a rare discovery. Obviously, on Mondays, it looked terrible. I didn't want to leave my side. He started to associate wonderful love and sex-fueled weekends with me, and having to drag himself into work and feeling low and depressed with her. Very Pavlov's dog. Woof, woof, job done. It's quite nice having him at home to myself. Oh, massive heart attack and stroke. Double whammy. Lucky to survive. Combination of high cholesterol and overexertion. Happened at the gym, thank God. Would have been very embarrassing if his recreational drug use had come to life. And that would have directly affected his very generous company sickness benefit. He's getting better each day, but the doctor has warned me that he'll never be quite the same. It's all right, I can take care of him. With the help of Sven, his carer, of course. For the heavy lifting, he's a very fine young man, very strong. Oh, she's gone, of course, taken another job. Interstate, I hear. Lock up your husband's Queensland. Well, I'd better be getting on. The wife's duty's never done. It's time for his almond milk. I'm sure we prefer full-fat dairy these days, but somebody's got to look after his health, don't they?
To know how we met? That's the first thing everyone asks me. Where'd you meet? On the web? And I say no. We met at work. I think people hope we met on the internet. I considered doing that a million times, but I hadn't. Not sure what I get. We met at work. I'm an accountant and he works in sales. Sales is not a job, well, accountancy is not a job that wins a lot of points for interest with anyone. Bit of a conversation killer. My boss used to come in after talking to him. That bloody Martin, he gets a lice to Eskimos. And I think, who is Martin? So we met, eventually, at a farewell for someone I didn't know. Everyone said he's a ripping bloke or fantastic guy. It's not like I was even looking, but it just seemed stupid not to pursue it. We had a chat, then a coffee, then lunch, then dinner, then a film, then another one. The thing that clinched it was a trip to IKEA. I needed a bookshelf, he helped me choose one, and then he brought it home for me in his car. I knew then it was serious. I'm sure we're not the first couple whose eyes have met over an Allen key. He asked me to do his tax, and while I was saving the file, he said, I think there's something really sexy, intimate about this. You doing my tax? He didn't have many deductions. And it was nice. He was great. But I wasn't breathless over the moon. Wasn't seeing fireworks. But who does? I've done the relationship thing a couple of times. I wasn't looking, but I was fed up with going out. Too much work. Not much return on investment. He was attentive and my friends loved him. He's fun, Mel. He can talk to anyone. He's a keeper. And he is. He was. He was great. It wasn't perfect, but what is? And the thing that wasn't perfect seemed so minor in the scheme of things, it seemed petty to worry about it. It's just, he didn't seem to have much interest in sex. Not with me, anyway, and not often. But it wasn't a deal breaker. Occasionally I wondered about the reasons, but it always ended up with me questioning myself, so I tried not to think about it. And it was so good in other ways, more important ways. I think I'm attractive enough, and there is no reason it shouldn't work, because he's attractive to everyone. On paper, we're a smart, funny, attractive couple. We should be perfect. And it's not like we never have sex. We do. We did. Just not very often or with any great regularity. I had this idea that it elevated us to a more cerebral connection. We didn't need the physical as much as other couples because of our genuine emotional connection. We're connected on a deeper level. And then I thought, maybe he just couldn't open up. I've met his sister and an aunt, but no one else. He's always been very outgoing at work. It's so different at home. That seemed quite sweet, because it's like he has lots of layers. And at home he can be almost lonely. Extroverted, but introverted. Like he needed someone to love him. And what's not to love? So I did. One night, not long after IKEA, he appeared at the front door, out of the blue. He was so serious, and it was actually a bit disconcerting, but quite sweet and vulnerable. He said, I love you, and I don't love many people, and it's really important that you understand that. Do you understand? Yes. It's really important that you get that. Do you? He had tears in his eyes. Yes. No. Not really. He had tears in his eyes. So we got engaged. I kept thinking, we're too old to be engaged. Who gets engaged? And then I wanted it to be small, intimate, no engagement ring. He got me a ring. He wanted me to have it. He wanted me to have anything I wanted. I didn't want a ring. Then he wanted a band at the reception. I don't think we need a band, do we? People don't have bands now, do they? Or a DJ? Have an iPod stuck in the corner. Cheaper, less fuss. We had a band. A band that almost outnumbered the guests. I thought we had a band because he loved to dance. But he doesn't. He doesn't dance. So at my wedding, I danced with the band my husband wanted with my brother. He sat at the table watching us. At one point I looked over and caught him zoning out. Looking, but not seeing. Miles away. I thought, married a complete stranger. There are so many things I don't know. So many questions I should ask. But then the chicken dance started, and I just let it go. Marriage hasn't been what I expected, but I don't know what I expected. He's handy around the house. He can make things, do things, change a washer, light the pilot on the hot water. Oh, I can do those things. Have done all those things, but I'm sick of it. But that's not why we got married. I'm not sure I know why we got married. A few months ago, he took a week off work to build a pergola. He was different while he was doing it. Excited, affectionate, open. He seemed happy. Every night when I get home and have dinner waiting and then we go straight to bed. We made love every night and most mornings. We made love more times in that week than we had the whole time I'd known him. I kept thinking he really wants me. It was passionate, ecstatic, like it should have been from the beginning. It was nothing like us, like who we are normally. It was fantastic. He was so different. We were so different. Then he went back to work and it stopped. Everything went back to normal. Everything. We went back to our deep cerebral connection, and part of me missed our shallow physical one. That sounds awful, doesn't it? One night, about a week later, there was a knock on the door. It was our neighbour, Mrs. B. I don't even know what the B stands for. Her cat was missing or something. I could hear him talking, and she's old, and he was lovely. I could hear the concern in his voice. I lived there for 5 years and said 2 words to her, and he was so sweet, so compassionate. I thought, I am so lucky. Her cat had been shot in the head with a nail gun. He was outraged. Worse than an animal, he said. Not even a fucking animal would do that. What's not to love? We made love twice that night, and I thought, he really does want this. Me. I thought it was the start of something. And it was. Just not for us. For us, things went back to normal. Post-pergola, post-nail-gun killing of mittens, and post-briefly exciting sex life. He was still so solitary and just really hard to read. Except at work. At work he was the life of the party, but I think my invitation got lost in the mail. I started to resent it. The difference, the gap. But how can you tell anyone that? It should have been perfect. So last month he was late from touch football. Hours late, and I was worried. It was just so late. He was really angry with me. I've never seen him so angry. I went for a drive. I wanted to clear my head from work. I work pretty hard, don't I? For you. For me. You've wrecked everything. You don't trust me. I love you and you don't trust me. Do you know how that feels? Do you? I wanted to get you something. A gift. I love you and you make me feel like shit. You don't believe me. He started to cry. He started to cry and then he started undoing my shirt. I didn't believe either of us. And I don't want whatever this is. Saturday, I read the paper. Not in the morning, I read it after work, and then it was on the TV and I was really aware of it. It's weird, isn't it? Seeing someone you know in the paper or on the news. I mean, I always watch those reenactments and wonder, do I know that person? Could I be of any help? I never can. Does it count for anything that I always hope I can? But as soon as I saw it, I knew her. From the video shop. Very pretty. Young. Always pleasant. Smiled when she took the card. I looked at that picture and I knew her. 19 years old and I knew her. Not her name. Caitlin. Nice name. Suits her. I kept looking at that picture because I knew her. We knew her. And then you came. You came because we knew her. I wanted to put flowers on a doorstep or something, or write them a letter. I don't know what to say. I want to say I had no idea. Who believes that? And who cares what I know, or didn't know, or thought, or think? Sometimes I don't care. She was in my car. How could I not know that? I have friends and family and a good job and a life. But people will think I knew. Maybe I did. But I didn't. I didn't ask. But who would think to ask that? Or what should I have asked? I had some questions. But then the chicken dance started. And I just let it go.
It's the final curtain. I never want to hear from any cheerful Pollyannas. They'll tell you fate provides a mate. It's all bananas. I am the eyes that watch, the footstep on the stairs, the curtain that twitches when you stumble home drunk. I barely rest, I cannot sleep, for I need to be vigilant, alone, and alert in my fears. Move in a little closer, I will not harm you, for I know so well what it is to be blue. Cut the music! Huh. That brings us to our designated topic, the family. Oh, could someone assist this wretched woman? My dear, you should be at home, tucked up in bed with a good hard book and a hot lemon drink. Or better yet, why not dump the wretched book and hop under the quilt with a dry martini and a good hard man? I digress. I just can't help it. My concentration is so easily disturbed by those who transgress. Miss Wild Transgression, at your service. Oh, that's not my nickname. That's my real name. I changed it legally by deed poll right around the time I divorced my entire family. I gouged them out from my flesh without anesthetic, and I've not looked back since. The horror, bloody horror of my family life. Fret not, we shall not make merry with sordid details. I don't want to weigh you down with ugly scenes, gross sexual deviancies, and abhorrent domestic violence. No, 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 for I choose to remain in the light. In the light! I'm not here to fuse your synapses and make you squirm. My father was an eagle, and that gave him special privileges. It was his right to swoop and plunder, and remind his 3 wives that they were mere sparrows. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Dull, little brown sparrows, frantically hopping around competing for crumbs dropped by the great man. I should warn you. Alcohol works on me like truth serum. It's interesting, given everyone in my family are liars. Highly skilled liars. Well-rehearsed liars. The kinds of liars that make you breathless with anticipation. Oh, no doubt curious minds are asking, but how can we trust you, Miss Transgression?
In short, you can't. I might well be an unreliable witness to my life, but what the hell? Take a risk. Now, listen closely and pay attention.
The eagle was called Heathcliff. Clearly not his real name, but it was either that, or your father, or the bastard, depending on how much vermouth my alleged mother had imbibed. She was called Rose. She never allowed me to call her mum, or mama, or mummy. Why? Because it made her feel old. Old. Once upon a time, the eagle and Rose had been in love. Or as much in love as 2 narcissists can comfortably manage. The initial courtship involved a motorbike and a red ball gown. On the way back from a university ball, Rose's gown got tangled around the back wheel of the pulsing beast, known as a Harley. The beast ripped her gown off at the waist and wrapped it around the back wheel until the delicate fabric was shredded. Shredded! Heathcliff refused to stop until the bike swerved sideways. He sniggered at the sight of Rose, in tears, without her skirt. Brief digression here. Her suspender belt was pale pink satin, with fine red silk rosettes, and her stockings a gossamer dream. On the spot, Heathcliff decided to make Rose his first wife. Was he seduced by her sensational lingerie and her creamy, lightsome thighs? No. He thought she was docile and easily dominated, a delectable victim yearning to be harnessed to his aberrant desires. But he was wrong. For Rose had more tricks up her sleeve than being able to cry on demand. Indeed, she was a preternaturally gifted amateur actress. Drama was in her DNA.
And Rose needed a daily dose of hot, salty tears just to function normally.
I shan't bore you with the domestic details. Suffice to say that Heathcliff and Rose clawed each other magnificently for the next decade. The Eagle's Nest was not a happy place to be. By my 5th birthday, I knew that these people were not my tribe. I fantasized that the stork had accidentally dropped me down the wrong chimney as he winged his way to my real family. I assumed he meant to deliver me to the Brown family up on the hill.
of remarkably well-adjusted, cheerful children. Not for them the nightly horrors of tears, accusations and gratuitous violence. And instead of pork vindaloo and coq au vin, they ate fish and chips, and bangers and mash. And on Sundays they would pile into their clapped-out station wagon and drive to the Catholic Church to have their souls cleansed and their hearts lifted. Oh, I was smitten. By cunningly ingratiating myself, I managed to become Gail Brown's best friend. And so, I became part of the Brown family. Gail cried when I made it into university and she didn't. During orientation week, I got rotten drunk and I collapsed naked on top of a well-endowed Trustafarian and woke up engaged. In a token gesture of independence, I kept my assumed surname. I didn't choose Tristan because his family were filthy rich. I chose him because I love how his dark hair curled at the nape of his neck and the way his strong, capable hands stroked me all the way to heaven. Oh. Good breeding prevents me from discussing what Tristan Jones could do with his tongue.
I've always been a slave to my sensuous nature.
And so I failed to notice that Tristan, named after the famous lover, was already a dissolute drunk and a first-rate depressive. After our fancy wedding, we left for a gobsmackingly expensive honeymoon in Europe on a pleasure cruiser loaded with dead people. No, I'm not being melodramatic. Usually only reserved for the very wealthy. We were the youngest married couple aboard. First class, of course. And it was in our romantic bridal suite that I was forced to concede I'd married a man just like dear old Dad. I wept bitter tears as I tried to conceal the ugly bruising on my neck and the blackened eye. My new husband was half cut by lunchtime, rat-faced by dinner time, and a debauched sailor by bedtime. He was leader of the onboard rat pack, and greatly admired for reciting Omar Khayyam under the stars as he teetered daringly on the first-class safety railing. A book of verses underneath the bow, a jug of wine, a loaf of bread, and thou! Well, there are no prizes for guessing what happened next. Somewhere in the midnight hours, Tristan Jones lost his precarious grip and plunged to a watery grave. His body has never been found. Maybe he was taken by a giant squid. Those avaricious opportunists who lurk in the deepest, darkest waters of the ocean, with eyes the size of soccer balls and rapacious hooks for tentacles. No doubt my husband was so anaesthetised by 30-year-old Talisker Scotch whisky that he felt no pain. The newspapers reported that I, his tragic young bride, was in a deep princess sleep when my prince met his untimely fate. Nobody saw it happen. Nobody heard him cry out as he plunged to his watery death. Some hack suggested that in his alcoholic delirium, Tristan succumbed to the evil sirens of the deep. Trollops who lure men to their deaths with their eerie siren song. Apparently, no man with a pulse can resist their allure. Well, except for Odysseus, and he was smart enough to lash himself to the mast. But I must admit, the idea provides a comedic flavour to the death of Tristan Alphonse Jones. Picture several bare-breasted sylphs with seaweed and pearls in their wet hair, inviting my drunken husband to expertly ravish them one by one beneath the waves. Really? But here's the thing, folks. I know my husband was not alone that night under the stars and the sinister moon. And I know exactly how he came unstuck. But don't think for one moment that I'm in a confessional mode. Miss Wilde's transgression adores her newly acquired fortune and her glamorous widow status. And as Omar Khayyam put it so succinctly, a hair divides what is false and what is true.
Thank you.